Welcome to another episode of the Impel 4 podcast. Is it okay for a man to cry?
That's a good one.
Easy question for me. My mama used to say, "You just a big bucket of water."
Really?
Meaning that I would cry anytime. It's not a stretch. So when I hear about guys needing to be more emotive, more expressive, more in touch with their feelings, never been a problem for me. But curious about you two.
And you got that response from your mom that told you? Like,
Well, she was saying it like, she know I'm just that I cry easy. Like because my mom is a hard person, She's the type growing up, like she didn't tell me I love you, John. I knew she did just by her actions, but she wasn't the type to express it. So to that point, I was determined when I became a father that I would be that type of dad who told my kids, I love you, So again, that's never been a problem for me. Now, it's cost me some relationships with women because like women can't. Now we getting off track. Women can't handle this. It seems like, man, like because when I come
sensitive, emotional,
come all sensitive like Ralph Tresvant, like he said, we need a man with sensitivity.
Right.
But that seemed to repel the women. But that's another topic. But for you guys, being in touch with your emotions, being able to cry, being able to tell your kids, I love you. No, me being able to tell Leon, I love you, Leon, versus love you, man. That, to me, that ain't love
It's
you,
a little
man.
different?
Yeah, love you, man. I don't mean that.
I wouldn't say you don't mean it because I tell brothers all the time, love you. I make sure I give them that, love you, bro. When I'm leaving, we may be talking. I do it all the time, and I mean it. I may not say I love you, but I mean it. And sometimes I'm pretty sure I say I love you.
the thought's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But getting back to the crying part, I'm emotional. I cry. I don't have no problem crying. I think we as men, society, period, men, women, whoever, they get it mixed up when it comes to sensitivity, emotions, crying, all that. Matter of fact, all of it is an emotion, So, I don't have no problem crying. I cry anytime, And I'm going to tell you, I think I told you this before. So this is right before the pandemic. It had to be 2019, 18. I saw a picture of my cousin and my uncle, father and son. And, my biological father wasn't around, when I was younger. I never felt any type of way, like, towards my father, like, and I still don't, I still love him. But that day I seen that picture they posted. Yeah. And whatever the caption said, it said something like father, son, this and this and that. And, they had that bond and they taking the picture together. And I immediately started thinking about me growing up without my father. I'm sitting in a barber chair. I'm just, strolling on Facebook. I ain't had no customer. I felt a tear coming. I felt it coming, but I held it back, But after that day, I don't know if it was weeks later, days later, whatever, I constantly started thinking about it. One day I was in the shower. I just started crying.
Yeah, man.
One day I was sitting in my game room. Wow. Something probably came on TV about father and son. I started crying. I was like, dang. I never knew that it affected me like that until I saw that post. But, I don't have a problem crying, I'm emotional, but I'm strong too, though. So don't get that twisted.
I'm not gonna lie, man. It's a fairly new concept for me. I would say like within the last maybe like 5-10 years, like I really just learned how to open up emotionally. Cause I grew up in just me and my mom, single parent home, and my mom was tough too. But she still gave me the emotional support that a kid needs, that a child needs, but also just growing up in a harsh environment, when you're in the hood, you gotta be a man at an early age. You gotta be tough. You gotta be hard. Even going to school, man, walking to the pencil sharpener. Kids back then, bullying was like the norm. But in our culture, we were snapping on each other, doing jokes or whatever. So, but you still take that stuff to heart. And it was weird because I remember, like, man, I would say between like my maybe first to third grade, like I did used to cry a lot. And then sometime after that, about fourth grade, I stopped it. You know, for some reason, I just became iron. You know, and everything was just like a mission to get done. You know, it was just like hardcore Larry then. And it wasn't until I would say my early 30s was when I really started going through like emotional distress. I had passing of my mom. I was going through a divorce. My kids was going through some things, and it piles on you, man. It weighs on you so heavy that you get to your breaking point. And there were times I went through therapy, was talking to therapists, trying to get things. I went through grief counseling to handle the passing of my mom, things like that. And it wasn't until I isolated myself. And I don't recommend anybody do that. I don't recommend anybody isolate themselves. If you're going through something, talk to somebody, get some help. But for me, it was like I needed to cut out all the distractions. You know, I need all the noise. So I isolated myself, started cut back on the things that wasn't doing me good, like, you know, wasn't feeding me basically. And so I could actually focus on who I was. Because I wasn't this ironclad, hardcore guy, you know? Like no guy should be that way. Like we're people with feelings. We're guys with feelings. Like we're emotional too. But you know, those societal burdens tell you that, yo, if you're a man, you're crying, you're weak. Yeah. And so we don't show weakness. And I think that's where I fell into. You know, I didn't want to feel like I was showing weakness every time an emotion would show up. Yeah. You know? So I was just one guy the whole time, just stoic all the time, 24/7. But I saw that affecting my kids. Like I saw myself passing that down to my sons. Because as a man, you're supposed to be the examples to your sons. And so I can see my oldest son, taking on the same traits of where if something happened, you know, let's say he playing a basketball game and he loses, you know, and he really cares about it, he wouldn't show emotion. It's like, well, how you feel, son? Like you feel good? You feel, you know, like you can do better? You feel nothing.
And you had never been the type of father who said, don't you cry after you lose.
I was at first because that's what I had learned.
Okay.
You know, that's the response that we learned. But that's completely wrong, obviously. So when I was going through all my, you know, emotional stuff and learning who I am, that's when I started learning, okay, you got to learn the proper strategies to deal with these emotions, man. And then for your kids, it's the same thing. Because people always, they forget, kids are dealing with the same emotions that you are. They dealing with adult emotions too. They just don't have the experience.
Human emotions.
Exactly. They ain't got the experience to deal with it like a 30-year-old does.
And let me ask this, Larry. Do you think it was more so because there were some times when you spoke to your son about, you know, being hard on the court, not showing that emotion?
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that happened a lot. So was it more that those few times, or was it just your son observing my dad is this hard guy?
Yes, observing me. Because that's how, I didn't know my dad that well, but the few times that I have known him, he was always, you know, ice cold. You know what I'm saying? And so, and me developing, you know, your environment, trying to adapt, trying to be flexible, and not show weakness, we instinctively start doing the same thing. And my son was observing me, observing how me going through a lot of depression and stuff, like dealing with the loss of my mom or dealing with divorce and stuff. And he saw me kind of shut down. And so he thought, okay, this is probably what I should do. You know, should be my reaction, you know, if X, Y, and Z happen. But for kids, they don't know how to process the input and the output. So they got one emotion and they apply that to everything. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Did you cry more? I don't remember crying much as a kid.
Yeah,
I cried when I first got locked up. I remember that because I know I hurt my mother. But I think I cried more as an adult than I
am
remember.
now. I am now. Right. Like I can cry now because I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in my emotions. Like I know it's okay to let it out, man. Like I got nothing to prove to nobody. You know?
Learned experience. you're saying you've learned over time that is healthy, or Leon, we're in a society now where it's accepted now
it's getting there.
To be in touch with your emotions.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's getting there.
Like you said, holding it in makes it worse.
Oh yeah, man.
You explode.
You don't deal with it. You don't deal with it. You know,
Got to deal.
Man, I cried when Kobe passed.
Oh man, what?
Wow.
I cried when Kobe passed, man.
And
I don't for celebrities.
That thing hurt me.
Kobe, I think Kobe might have been the only celebrity I ever probably cried for that passed, for somebody who I totally do not know, a stranger basically.
That thing hurt me.
I felt that.
We was going out to eat.
Yeah.
I'm going in the restaurant and see people talking about Kobe. I'm like, what are they talking about? He's my favorite player. So I go look at my phone. I'm like, what?
Yeah, man.
I left immediately out the restaurant.
Wow.
Rode to the barbershop, had to turn on the TV, see what's going on.
Yeah.
That thing hurt me.
Yeah. But like you're saying now, man, it's becoming more acceptable now. And I think because it's the awareness of it is getting out there. For men to, we're not warriors 24/7. We can't be,
And just talking about mental health in general.
Yeah.
And so it makes you wonder, like our kids, my daughters are 19 and 16. So you would think that they wouldn't struggle because it's accepted.
To me, your daughters?
Yeah. But you still hear about, like, we're in a mental health crisis in America. So I was going to ask, what else can be done? I mean, it's in the schools. Maybe we aren't doing enough at home. Because I don't have those conversations with my kids about, are you taking care of your mental health?
Yeah.
I talk to my daughters all the time. I go in the room, I lay in the bed with them. Got something you want to talk about. But, of course, them being young and teenagers, they like, no.
My kids the same way, too.
Then you start finding out more that something may be wrong and come out later on. So I think as long as you're having those conversations, you're doing your part. But, once they go to school, they easily influence. You don't know who's picking on them or, getting bullied.
I think that the one thing that helps with that is the one thing we don't have anymore is the village concept.
Oh,
because you one person, you know what I'm saying? And you can only do so much in the amount of time that you have. And so there has to be that village community aspect put together that says, we'll watch out for each other. You watch out for my kids, I watch out for your kids. If you need me, I need you. I'm going to share a short story with you. One of my homeboys, man, my childhood friends, just passed away, like right before Christmas, man. And we got a tight group of guys that's probably like maybe seven or eight of us, man. And that hit us hard because, we wasn't expecting that, man. You think your friends can live forever. You think y'all immortal, man. I had just talked to this guy like the 2 days before.
Wow.
And so we have a group chat. I set up a group chat on one of the apps that we have, and we've been going strong now probably about 2.5, 3 years. And in that group chat, we share pretty much, everything that's going on with ourselves, our accomplishments, our kids' graduations, birthdays, and the bad stuff too. 'Cause a friend of mine, him and his wife they hit a rough patch. And so he brought it to the group, and everybody pitched in, talked to him, said, hey, man,
good,
you can do this, you can work on that brotherhood, that community. And I think that's what allowed me to be more open, was because I wasn't judged. It was a judgment-free zone to be yourself, and I didn't have to isolate myself. I could go out there with a group of people and be accepted, for who you are. And I think that's what we need more of. The awareness for that is getting up there, but that's the direction we need to go into. No man is not an island, you know what I'm saying? And so just having that core group of people you can lean on in your time of need is the important part.
But, man, it's got to be something else to it, because I think about last year, 2022, first semester of college, kept hearing about suicides that were happening at North Carolina State University.
Right.
And so happening during a time where mental health is talked about, where there are resources on campus. And so, like, why did these young people take their own lives, man? So it makes me wonder, look, resources are provided. We have a free exchange to talk about this. Why is it still happening, man?
A lot of that is hard, man, for a person to come forward. I went through my whole life like that. When I shut down and became ice cold, if I had something going on, people's famous word is, "You all right?" "Yeah, I'm good." How many times you hear that when you know somebody, obviously, it's not good, man. It's not good. But it's just something within that person. Like, they have to get to a point where it's enough for them to come forward. Sometimes it don't be enough, and they take different means. You know what I'm saying? They take more permanent means to a temporary situation. And that's where you don't want to get to. So, but the most important part is to always, be mindful, be present, check on your people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's so important, man, because you just never know. Because everybody dealing with something. Like, let's be honest. Always. Everybody dealing with something. Ain't nobody out here got that perfect rainbows and butterfly life out here.
You wouldn't know it by some of these social media posts where everybody's on top of the world.
And that's another person. That's another problem of it. That's another problem, man.
Social media is good and bad.
Yeah, agreed. It's a tool. Yeah. It's a tool.
Good because
something like this, it's podcast. Get out information.
You can find the resources that you need.
Conversations.
But bad.
A whole lot of other stuff.
I think, like,
you know what's good and you know what's bad.
When it's things like this, man, this is where you got to talk to your kids, and you got to realize that some of the stuff you see is fantasy. It ain't real. And when I was talking about earlier,
some adults can't deal with that.
Yeah, exactly. But I couldn't at that point. Right. So when I was talking about earlier, where I had to shut out distractions, like, social media is one of those distractions, man, because you get on there. It's so easy to get on social media and look at everybody else's life. It's hard, man, to go look at yourself in that mirror and say, I need to deal with this trauma. I need to deal with this issue. I need to deal with these problems. That's tough, man. That's tough. So for me, I've just started learning how to let that emotion out, man, and be comfortable, but also pass those healthy strategies to my kids.
And talk to my kids what does letting it out look like for you?
Letting it out depends on how it's being presented to you, man. Like, when I lost one of my best friends, man, like, I cried for about a day. I cried for about a day because I knew this kid for a minute, like, for years. His mom was like my mom. My mom was his mom, And it wasn't just me. I knew it was a group of us that were in the same boat. And so I was able to confide in them. And then when you do that, man, you realize, like, oh, my other guys, they going through the same thing too. Like, okay, they took it hard. They crying, And I think when you let it out, man, it's just that it comes in many forms. Sometimes it might be anger, Sometimes it might be sadness and sorrow. Sometimes it might be just, it could be guilt. Like, could I have done more? So letting out the emotions, man, it's different. They get triggered by different things. Okay. And you got to find a healthy way to process it, of course, because you don't want to be angry and then you go and doing, hurtful and destructive things. You have destructive behavior. But, man, it's just different ways you got to process it. But I think that comes with practice. It takes practice.
What was that thing you said before? Don't let a temporary situation.
Oh, a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Leon, like, I'm looking at your chair, your barber chair, where untold numbers of people come here. Curious, man, when you first started cutting, not here, when you first started cutting with Mr. Scotton, have you noticed a difference in the conversation from men sharing their problems versus now in 2023 sitting in your chair now? Because over time, again, it's become more accepted to be in touch with their feelings. Have you noticed a difference in the conversation?
That's a good question, because I did notice a difference. I hear a lot more men telling me their problems now.
Oh, man, yeah.
That's a good
Hey,
question.
the barber and the bartender, man, they get it all.
I mean, you got a powerful spot, man. You know what I'm saying? Do you intentionally use it to be, the therapist for people?
Not necessarily, but it turns out that way sometimes.
Unintentionally, right?
Right.
I can ask somebody, "How you doing? What's going on?"
And they be like, "Well, let me tell you about."
Just start talking.
Is it hard on you to take in this stuff? And do you take it? When you go out to the barbershop, do you take it with you?
Certain conversations I do. Some I don't.
Yeah.
Some of them are kind of personal. Some not. People just feel like they want to open up to your barber.
You treat it like a horoscope, man. Just take what applies to you.
And then some of them, I'll be like, wow, I'm surprised they told me this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
one thing I learned too, man, when people sometimes just they feel more relaxed talking to, a stranger, somebody who don't completely know them,
right?
Yeah. Because they don't expect to get looked at or judged because this person don't know me, things like that. So I mean, it happens, man. It happens. But I think we getting to a point now where it's starting to be more acceptable as far as men just realizing like, hey man, like I can't be tough all the time. Now don't go too far to the other side, where you just say you can't even stand up for yourself.
Oh no. You gotta still be strong now.
Yeah. It's a compromise, man. It's a compromise.
And look, let's have some gender equity, if I could say it. What about our ladies, man? I mean, anything that just three fellas sitting around kicking it. What might we offer them in terms of them wanting to share? Because maybe there are some, the same way I was on the softer side. What about those women who are on the harder side and keep stuff bottled in like you did?
I guess we probably have to have some up on the show because only they can express themselves.
Yeah.
Better than we can.
I mean, they try. They try.
We about to go down the road.
Yeah, they try. I mean, some women they raised just like some of them are raised like us in a hard environment, and that societal burden falls on them sometimes too to just be tough, to be tomboys.
But it's about the human being, not necessarily of men or women.
For sure,
we all humans living in this environment, so it's an emotion. We all have them.
The whole thing, man, is properly processing it in a healthy way, bro.
Right.
I think that's what the underlying thing needs to be. Like, okay, how you dealing with this? That's like before people get married. Like people get married quick, and then once they get married, they find out that there's so much stuff they didn't know about each other because certain events trigger certain emotions. It's like, okay, you don't know how your spouse deals with death. You don't know how your spouse deals with financial issues, how they manage their money. Because certain emotions they didn't. They've been in the honeymoon phase, and once the honeymoon phase is over, then real life kick in. Now the work got to start.
Or sometimes you may see things before, and you just think it's gonna change, and
then you end up crying.
Now, man, I've been in your barber chair. You didn't tell me that when I was. Did I tell you I was getting married, man? You didn't tell me.
I don't remember that conversation.
Cause but you talk about events happen, things change, man. Like I'm convinced. Something, whether it's in the universe or whatever, something happens when you say "I do." Man, it's just like something just happens, man. It just becomes different. I don't care how long you've known this person.
Yeah.
Because that commitment is like, hey, you in this thing now.
It's real.
Versus, before you tie that knot, you can go either way. You overlook some things, like because I look back on
some red
mine,
flags,
man. I'm like, yeah, I saw that. I saw that, but I was like, but there was nothing you, my mama, nobody could have told me.
Tell you no better.
To kept me from walking down that aisle.
So. Yep. Live and you learn.
Boy, did I learn.
Yeah, the emotions pop up. Yeah. You did good though, man.
Well, that's it.
All right.
Anything else to say?
That's all I got, man.
Hey, cry, man. It's okay to cry.
One last cry. Come on, Lee.
No.
Before you leave that door behind.
Some Brian McKnight.
You got to sing, Brian. See, at least he knew who I was singing, so my voice ain't that bad.
Yeah.
Give us a little something. Take us out with a little something, Lee.
All right, man.
That's it for the Impel Forward podcast.
All right.
If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Impel Forward podcast.